guys, it's Ariana. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, we're going to be reading some more scary stories. So this is the same author from the last story that we read. So we just finished the series of There's Something Seriously Wrong with This Guy's Apartment. And now I'm moving on to another one of this author's stories. And this one's titled, I Never Should Have Bought This Damn House. And the Reddit author is 02321. If you want to go check out more of his work, he has tons of stories. And let's jump into this spooky story. And welcome to day, I believe it's day 22 or 23 of 31 days of Halloween. Housing prices are a nightmare, and renting can be worse than some apartments. I never understood paying over $1,000 to stay at a place per month if I could put that towards a mortgage. If only the bank saw things my way. I needed to find a place I could afford, and got so desperate to buy a house no one with any kind of sense would even consider. I found myself standing in an unfinished basement with a nervous real estate agent. His professional suit looked out of place in a dark and creepy basement like this. So, you think I can paint over this? I asked him, trying to break the ice. We both stared at a pentagram carved into the stained cement. It also was painted over with red spray paint with odd writing around the circle. The stains in the middle had gruesome symbols, were blood, but confirmed to be chicken. The house I was thinking about buying had been foreclosed 5 years ago. It stood empty, and a group of edgy teens took it over. They used the basement to try to summon demons, or just got drunk. A couch sat off in the corner, and if I bought this house, I needed to pay someone to take the couch and burn it. I had no idea what the stains were on the cushions, and I never wanted to find out. Besides the basement, the rest of the house really wasn't that bad. We went over the rest of the house for the next 5 minutes. The structure had no issues, and the water heater still worked. The house lacked heat right now, but I could get a small space heater if I needed. I lived in a hotter part of the country, so some sweaters and 2 pairs of socks would work until I can afford to install a heater. The plan was to buy the house at a rock bottom price and then work on it over the next few years. I could afford to buy it, but who really cared about a crappy pentagram in the basement? It's not as if those things actually did anything. My real estate agent looked very happy to get the property off his hands in such a pain-free way. At least, no murders happened in the house, and no one claimed it was haunted. I bought the house, changed the locks, and put in a security camera at the front and back doors in case those kids thought about coming back. I moved in a few items, and I got trying to work on the house. The first thing I did was I got rid of the couch. I found an old TV and a DVD player hooked up downstairs, and dread came over my body when I found an old box of horror movies. I sold the TV and the DVD player for a little bit of cash, and I tossed the horror DVDs. I had a very bad memory associated with most of them. They weren't even good movies either. At low budget, the plots that made no sense. The one was borderline pornographic, and it held most of my worst memories. I burned the disc, and I forced myself to forget about it. I found out that the pentagram would take some work to remove. They carved it into the cement flooring. I had no idea how to fix it. I needed to talk to some of my contacts I made through work to see if they could do something for me. I mean, I could mix my own cement and fill it, but what if I didn't use the right cement and it chipped off after I painted? The best idea was to let someone who knew what they were doing fix it. I didn't have a time limit and I wasn't worried. I just removed the paint and I got rid of the chicken blood the best that I could. The first month was uneventful. I contacted someone to do the basement flooring, but he couldn't get to it for another month or so. I showed some coworkers photos of the basement before I cleaned it, and the jerks started to call my house the murder house. I kept telling them that no one ever died in the basement, but they refused to drop it. I do some work related to a low-budget horror movie. A director said he would pay me $100 if I would let him repaint the pentagram and let him use the basement for a set. I refused. I didn't want a small crew coming through my place for a month or so for shooting, and he was the kind of director who picked up side projects. He worked with some girls producing handmade adult orientation horror content, and I didn't judge him for that, but I didn't want my basement to be recognized because these sort of videos going around online. He found someone else with an even creepier unfinished basement. I kept telling myself I wouldn't let the look of the basement start freaking me out. No murder in this house. It wasn't haunted. I had nothing to worry about. Then, odd things started to happen, no matter how much I wanted to dismiss them. First, I started to hear noises at night. I woke up needing to go to the washroom at around 2 in the morning. My body was on a timer. No matter when I drank last, I needed to pee at 2 in the morning. I struggled getting out of bed and I braced myself for the cold darkness. A scratching noise made me stop. I strained my ears listening and even brought my feet back under the blankets in case a bug or rodent was moving around under my bed. After a few minutes, the sound went away. I tried to place what I heard, and I slowly went out into the hallway and turned on every light and looked for any traces of what the noise could have been. After about 30 minutes of looking, I heard a tree branch tapping against the window in a spare room. It was close enough to the sound that I had heard. The next day, I trimmed back the branches thinking the nightly noises would be solved. Either way, the branches needed to be cut. I'd forgotten about the noise until I came home late one night. The sun already had set and I came inside to get ready to crash for the rest of the night. My job kept me for too long and I just wanted to shower and sleep. I walked past the living room and noticed a box had fallen over. I owned a lot of horror movies, and I mean a lot. I tended to get a few copies from other people I worked with, and sometimes I had doubles of the same movie and stored them in boxes. It felt wrong donating gifts, so I kept them to slowly give them to others who may enjoy the movies more. With people getting into streaming services, it got harder dumping DVDs on fans. I knew if I didn't put them away, I wouldn't do it for another week. I wasn't sure how the box had fallen over in the first place. I thought the stack was stable. I packed them away, but one case wasn't fully closed. I noticed when I picked it up and I grimaced at the title. It was the worst movie I worked on and the one I already burned a copy of. A friend signed this one, so I had to keep it. I shut the case, but I realized it was empty after handling it. The disc should be rattling around in the cheap plastic case. I looked around for the DVD, wondering if I forgot the movie somehow. No loss if I did. And I saw the DVD player was on. I hadn't touched that thing in over a year, besides moving in. Actually, I didn't even remember plugging it in. I reached over and I pressed the button for it to open, and I saw the missing DVD resting in it. I then went around to double check the locks to try to figure out if someone got inside the house or not. My camera didn't pick up anyone breaking in, and nothing besides the DVD had been moved. I must have done this while getting a snack in the morning. I once fell asleep in the middle of eating a piece of bread at 3 in the morning after I got up to use the bathroom. If I passed out eating, it was possible I put the movie on the middle of the night and forgot all about it. The only other options were someone broke in without my camera seeing and only messed with one thing, or my house was haunted. A ghost knew about how to use a DVD player and wanting to watch some bad horror movie? Not likely. I told my coworker the next day and they laughed at me. Some were starting to give me some spiritual protection stuff as jokes. Some sage, some table salt, and one got me one of those salt lamps. I dumped all of their thoughtful gifts besides the front door, ready to forget about them. A month went by and I started to get uneasy. I was either sleepwalking a lot or I was going crazy. I heard small noises in the night, but they all had an explanation to them. From the wind to a mouse I caught and set free outside, I started to notice missing food. Not much, just enough for me to question it. I added another camera just in case a homeless person or someone had broke in and was living inside my walls. I checked over the house a few times, seeing no signs of anyone living in the walls or the attic. Then something else happened that I couldn't ignore. I got done working and repainting the god-awful kitchen cabinets, and I came into the living room to eat when I noticed something weird. The box to the DVDs was open. The cardboard flap sticking straight up. I went over to check it out and I found a few spaces of missing DVDs. This was weird, but the weirder thing was I finally noticed my DVD player was now missing. I barely even used it, so I didn't notice the empty space on the shelf until I stared directly at it. It was the one that opened up a very small screen, but could also plug into your TV. I looked all over for the damn thing to see if I saw any signs of someone breaking in. I still wasn't sure if I had a very crafty person secretly living with me or if I was walking around moving things at night. The last place I looked was the basement. I hated it down there. I did laundry as little as possible to avoid it. I found the DVD player hidden away in a dark corner, plugged in with the missing movies half hidden under an old sheet I'd been meaning to throw out. I collected the items and I ran upstairs freaked out. I barely slept that night, even putting a chair under my doorknob in case someone was actually getting into my place. I didn't want to go to the cops just yet. I didn't have proof, so I set up some cameras inside my house this time. Just a few to catch me sleepwalking or whatever else was happening. I caved and I hired someone to bless the house, feeling stupid the entire time. It didn't cost me very much, and what was the harm? If they were going around blessing houses instead of a real job, they could clearly needed the cash. I spoke with a friend of mine who suggested I might have pissed off one of the actors I've worked with, and they started to mess with me. They could know a person who can hack into camera feeds and make it seem like they weren't breaking into my place and moving things around. He suggested setting up some that weren't hooked up to Wi-Fi and recorded to a cloud storage, but directly into an internal storage to be viewed later. I took his advice and I kept a camera hidden pointing towards the front door under some coats. The noises in the night were starting to get to me. I even put a line of salt over the bathroom and my bedroom doorway. It couldn't hurt, right? And ghosts didn't like salt. With how little I slept, it wasn't likely I was behind moving things around while sleepwalking. I needed to get to the bottom of this. When my friend cemented over the pentagram, I finally got a full 8 hours of rest. I didn't realize what kind of effect that thing had on me until it was gone. The second night after the basement was returned to normal, all hell broke loose. Noises above my head woke me from a deep sleep. I jumped out of bed listening to something moving around the attic. I wrapped the blankets around me, heart racing. I listened, trying to gather the courage to go see what the hell was up there. My teeth clamped tightly together from fear of hearing rustling and moving above my head. A chattering came from the attic, and my fear faded a bit. I thought I knew what kind of sound it was. I needed to open the pull-out ladder in the hallway to double-check, though. I would be pissed at myself if I got scared at something I suspected to be up there. I grabbed some gloves, an old mask from one of the movies for protection, and I pulled on the string to the ladder. Dust came drifting down. I very slowly brought the ladder down, not wanting the thing in the attic to realize a new opening appeared and fled out of my house. I took the steps one by one, careful not to make any noise. I only put my head through to look around. The attic was cramped and smelled like years of dust buildup. I switched the flashlight on. The chattering came again, and I directed the light towards it. Two eyes reflected back in the darkness. We both froze in fear, seeing each other. More of the warning chatters came, and I sighed, seeing a very scared raccoon looking at me. This house had been closed up for 5 years. I should have checked out the roof first to see if animals could get in. I wasn't in the mood to get rabies shot, so I slowly backed down. I closed the attic, ready to call someone to deal with my new roommate in the morning. At least, it didn't go for my face. The cheap mask wouldn't really do much to protect me, though. I didn't think I could sleep that night, so I left the house, giving the raccoon some space. I spent the rest of the night getting food at any place still open and driving around until I felt tired. I got back home before the sun rose. I hoped my new friend had already left, and feeling tired as hell, I climbed the stairs, ready for bed. Even knowing all of my issues had perfectly reasonable explanations, I never cleaned up the salt lines. I felt foolish putting them down and even bothered burning the gifted sage. Now, with the raccoon, I've been able to explain away nearly every strange event in the house. The salt's been useless and disappearing over time from stepping on it by accident anyway. Or I assumed that was happening. I must have been very quiet getting home and going up the stairs because the other mystery roommate of mine didn't hear me. I wished it was just another raccoon roaming my house. I could have dealt with that. I reached the top of the stairs in mid-yawn, and I didn't see what waited for me at first. At the bathroom doorway was a shape that made me freeze. My body refused to move, no matter how much I wanted to scream. Something was hunched over, face against the door, licking up the remaining salt with long, tube-like tongue. It sensed me looking at it, and the head raised up, tangled black hair covering most of its face. The part of the face I saw nearly made me faint. I'd been stepping towards my bedroom, and instead of trying to escape by running down the stairs, I only took a single step toward when the creature moved. It was crawling up the walls along the ceiling with 6 arms that were hidden under long black hair. It dropped on top of me, pinning my body to the ground. The long and crooked fingers dug into my arms, trying to keep me still. I kicked, trying to get away. In my struggle, I only moved upwards by a few inches that made my sweater slip to expose my stomach like an invitation for the monster to dig right in. The face drew back and, to my horror, started to open up into sections. I've worked on horror movies, and since they were so low budget, we never could manage a creature like this. All the monsters I've seen had terrible CGI or craftwork splashed with gallons of fake blood. The real thing was much more terrifying. I screamed louder than I ever did before. I kept screaming, unable to do anything, as the mouth filled with pointed teeth, traveling down into a pitch black hole as the throat got closer. My lungs emptied, and I found myself coughing with tears in my eyes. The mouth was so close to me, and yet it didn't take my face off. It slowly started to close back up, almost to a human face. The nose a bit flat and eyes wide and dark. It stared down, and I gasped for air, mid-blank from fear. The monster spoke in a low and raspy voice. I stayed still, stunned. How did it know my name? Well, of course, if it's been inside my house for a while, it could have figured my name out easy enough, I guess. When it spoke again, it explained how it knew my name. I felt fear, but for an entirely different reason. Teen Scream Body Killers Part 3, the same as any random horror fan I've come across in public. I started to shake my head. I would rather be eaten than anyone talk about that damn movie. It was the first one I agreed to be in, and it ruined my life. I needed the money in college. I cannot understand the fact that my dorm mate asked me to be an extra in a low-budget movie, and it ended up being the lead role after the actor backed out. I got a few $100, and I thought doing adult scenes wouldn't be too bad. I mean, it wasn't real. I wasn't actually doing the deed on film. It was just shot as if I was. I did my job, and I tried to move on with my life. When the movie was released, a few other directors called me forth for smaller parts. It changed the course of my life to doing minor acting parts, but thankfully with no scenes as graphic as the first one. When I didn't find parts, I was offered to work on set and got pretty good at applying zombie and ghost makeup. I didn't even want to work on low-budget films like this. I had no chance of actually becoming a real actor, and no one would ever hire me for something decent due to the movies I'd agreed to be in. I went to school for an account, for God's sake. I thought through all of this to put off the mortification of the monster somehow seeing that movie and recognizing me from it. Please, just kill me, I begged, and I half meant it. The monster let go of my arms and backed up. We both sat in the hallway, it sitting like a dog, all the arms moving around, unsure of what to do. The creature wearing some torn up stitched together clothing of mine I thought I lost in the move around its waist. This all begged the question of what this thing was and why it watched horror movies. Have you been the one behind all the noises and things moving around, I asked. He kept looking everywhere but my direction. When I pulled down the sweater, he was finally able to make eye contact. I tried some food too. Not great. I like the floor stuff, he commented in the creepy, raspy voice. Salt works great for demons and ghosts, my fucking ass. I wondered why the salt lamp looked a bit thin on one side. He must have been licking that too. I reasonably wanted to be pissed off at this monster, but got lucky that he wasn't eating my face. Can you leave and not kill me? And what even are you? And what are you doing in my house to start with? I came through from far away with the spell made in the ground. I'm stuck in this building and I cannot leave. You ruined the way back when I slept. There's no way of getting back home. What am I? I'm not sure. Just me. What are you? Besides food and a story man, he asked, eyes unblinking in my direction. Those goddamn goth kids. They did bring a creature through their pentagram. They either didn't know that they did or saw this creature and bolted and didn't come back. I ignored the being food comment. I understood him not knowing what he was or what to call himself. He wasn't human and was from a different world. I got extremely lucky I wasn't dealing with something that had more teeth. He must have been inside the house alone long enough to figure out how to work the TV and DVD player to watch the movies left behind. What were the chances I bought this house that a monster who was a fan of trash was trapped inside? Can I remake the pentagram and send you back? I offered. Not likely. You can try though. May I request more information? He asked suddenly, and I backed up seeing a mouthful of sharp teeth after he smiled. I nodded and tensed up, ready for him to attack. Do you know of a part 4? He asked, ignoring my personal space and got very close to my face. I crawled back, trying to get away, only to have that ghastly face get closer, our noses nearly touching as I lost my balance, falling backwards. The monster got out of a pair of arms to catch me before I hit the ground. There is one, but my character died in the first 2 minutes, so I never watched it or got a copy, I admitted. Heart beating from fear, staring at those endless, pitch-black eyes. Oh, he did sound a little disappointed. The face pulled away and he lifted me back up so I was sitting again, and not bending my back trying to get away from him. Again, I considered if death might be better. When he spoke again, I decided, yes, I wanted to die instead of suffering through our next conversation. He told me that screams taste better than flesh. The part of the story with you and the girl screaming tasted the best out of all of those stories. I do not know why it took so long for you stabbing her for her to die, but it was very enjoyable. I buried my face in my hands, not wanting to see the nightmare or face looking so innocent. He really misunderstood that part. He brought up my traumatic dark past as if it was nothing. In the movie, I did stab the character after the terribly embarrassing act ended, but that was not at all what happened in the scene. We weren't I only stabbed her once, I corrected, feeling like I wanted to cry from embarrassment. An awkward silence came over us for a solid minute that felt like 10 years. He broke it by a small sound that made it clear he clued into why I felt so mortified. You should have just eaten me, I commented, and I pulled my hands from my face. Getting back on track, I needed to get rid of you. How can I do that? To my sheer horror, the monster shrugged all of his arms. This had been the worst night of my life. He looked over towards the room and then got back on all fours. After a big stretch, the creature yawned. I could see the darkness in the hallway getting brighter, showing the sun would be rising soon. He told me that he must go to sleep and that we will talk later. I sat dumbfounded. The thing was going to stay inside my house. I opened my mouth to ask it again how to remove him, and the monster's body started to sink into the hardwood floor. He told me again he would speak to me later and disappeared right before my eyes. I was stuck with a creature because I bought a place thinking a pentagram in the basement wasn't a big deal. A noise made me jump, showing the raccoon was still in the attic. I could at least deal with one freeloader, right? I went to work dead tired, but needed to take my mind off of what happened. The bruises on my arms proving the encounter happened, or I really lost my mind. I didn't really tell my coworkers what I saw that night, worried about their responses. I arrived home expecting to see the creature the moment I walked through the door. I considered renting out a hotel room, but my wallet said otherwise. The cost of safely removing the raccoon hurt my savings. Somehow, I passed out on the couch only to be rudely awoken by a pale face inches from my own. I screamed and I pushed the monster off. When my heart slowed down, we had a short talk about him hanging around. We both doubted I could figure out the right spell to send him home. Even if I could find an object, he claimed to have enough magic to send him back. He was stuck here for good, it seemed. I could move, but where would I go? The money I would make from selling this place wouldn't cover anything decent. I was stuck with a monster. The upside was he agreed not to eat me. Yet. His words hid a threat of not being able to hold back from taking a pound of flesh if I didn't provide him with a different type of food source. He could eat the terror and screams and other meat like raw beef or pork. I was a bad actor, so my fake screams didn't do the job. I needed to let him jump scare me at least once every 2 days or so to keep him pleasant enough to live with. He also said that he would eat the fear from the recorded scream if a different creature hadn't gotten to it first. I handed over an old iPad with headphones for him to look through. YouTube videos at night trying to find a meal or two. Most nights he didn't have much luck, making me extremely nervous over just how many monsters there might be in this world. I didn't know how my life got to this point. I got stuck in a job I felt embarrassed doing for the most part, and with a house I can't move out of. The threat of not providing enough food made me scared enough to give my new roommate a meal or two a week. I hated living in a dread of him jumping out from a dark corner at any second. The waiting for it to happen really was the worst part of the deal. After a few weeks of being forced to live with each other, the monster that crawled around in the darkness of the hallway to announce he decided on the name Teddy, and then crawled over to the ceiling to do God knows what. I think he's really out to kill me. How on earth can I be that scared of him when he pulls this kind of crap? Teddy? Really? Better land on a really good acting job that can pay me to move out of this place, or else I'm going to be eaten because this roommate of mine is really starting to grow on me. And that was the whole story. So I found that story to be very interesting. It definitely wasn't very scary. So I do apologize if you guys were looking for like a more true paranormal story, but I did wanted to add just a really fun story in there because I found that one to be fun. It was kind of humorous and like he's living with a monster and I thought it was kind of cute. So this is where I'm gonna end the video because I'm at the 27-minute mark and I need to upload this and edit this still. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video. I know this was a very different video than my usual stories I read on the channel, and I will definitely be reading more no sleep stories in the next couple videos to come, but I did just wanted to add this story in because the last video I did was super creepy and we needed a break and we needed something kind of cute. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, please leave me a comment down below letting me know you made it to the end of the video. Leave me your favorite, let's go with just favorite Halloween emoji. Leave me a monster, leave me a ghost, leave me a pumpkin. Let me know you made it to the end of the video. It really helps boost my channel on the algorithm if you guys leave comments or like my videos because YouTube knows that you guys are actually interested in my content and then it promotes it. So thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any scary stories, any paranormal stories, any just creepy stories in general that you want me to read on the channel, please feel free to message me either on Instagram or you can email me, and I will see you guys at the next video. Bye!